What is the Niners' number one need, Matt? Is it offensive tackle? Is it defensive tackle? Is it linebacker? Is it center? Is it wide receiver with Debo kind of regressing, Ayuk being hurt? A lot of uncertainty there. I mean, is there one position that you look at and say, you know what, that San Francisco's got to start there?
I think it's offensive tackle. I really do. I also, try to look at where the strength and weakness of a draft class is and where a team's picking. So I would say offensive tackle. Trent Williams has been amazing, but I think this year certainly you start to see, okay, we got to be thinking about the future here. What does this team look like without him? It was not good when he was out. And so replacing a Hall of Famer is impossible, right? But you have to start at least thinking toward that goal. And to that end, Colt McKivitz did not play well at right tackle. Aaron Banks did not play that well and is set to be a free agent. So I always look at it as a situation of, if a guy's there at 11, whether it be Will Campbell from LSU or Calvin Banks from Texas, or maybe you fall in love with Josh Simmons from Ohio State, who had a knee injury in early October, but he's going to be ready to go if he's there. You look at those guys and say, could they play left guard for a year and then, or however long Trent wants to play, and then eventually move out to the left side? I think that's an ideal situation. Or, like what Detroit really got lucky with Penei Sewell, who has been so good at right tackle, but he's had to play left tackle at times and looked very, very good on either side. So I start with the offensive line. At some point, you can only slap Band-Aids on it for so long before you're going to have – that's either going to come in free agency or in draft picks. So I would say this is a year where the strength of the draft lines up really well with San Francisco's needs, especially like where they're at in all the, all the rounds with all the picks they have. I think you at 11 could be looking at one of the top offensive linemen still being on the board.
Matt Miller with us on the UMA guest line. And Matt, a guy that's in your neck of the woods is Armand Membo. And I may have butchered that name, but he's a Missouri offensive lineman that Brugler had, going to the Niners with the 11th pick overall in his first mock. I watched some film of him because I didn't see tons of him at Missouri, and he is impressive. I will say that. Missouri does wind up with some amazing prospects going back to Aldon Smith and some of the players that come out of there, Nick Bolton. I mean, that's a really underrated program. You're right there. What do you think of Membo? I also kind of like Anthony Belton from NC State. Are these guys first-round picks? Are they second-round picks? Are they day 2 guys, day 3 guys? What do you see with those two?
Yeah, Membo's a first-rounder all the way. He's number 20 on my board. And I've been a big fan of his since I got a chance to watch him back in August in a scrimmage. He's just so athletic. Now, he's undersized for a right tackle. He's 6'3". He's probably going to move inside the guard. And so I think that would be the question of, can he play left guard? Or do you just – he would be so good for San Francisco because of how well he moves. So it's like, are you okay with a little bit of a shorter right tackle? Because in the run game, he's perfect for what San Francisco does. You mentioned Anthony Belton. I don't personally have him as a top 50 player. He's more of like a third rounder for me. Somebody who, like, body type's going to be huge for him. And I'll see him next week at the Senior Bowl. He was 360 pounds in the offseason. He's not built to play at that weight. He's really athletic. He needs to be 325 is where he needs to be at. So I'm anxious to see him weigh in at the Senior Bowl to see where he's at, to see if he's improved in some of that area. I'd say a player I love for San Francisco, and last year, such a great tackle class, and I had my favorites that I wanted them to get. I love Josh Connerly this year from Oregon. He was a running back in high school, outgrew the position, became a 5-star offensive tackle. When he was at Oregon, you could see him figuring it out. And this past year, he added strength, but like that agility from him being a running back in high school is still there. He is so good in the run game. He's such a great zone scheme blocker. If he's there, he's the guy that, like, he's 18 on my board, so like 11, you're like, I'd be a little bit of a reach, but gosh, he would just be such a great scheme fit for them.
The guy that I loved in last year's draft that I was hoping they would take at the end of the first round was Zach Frazier, and he went to Pittsburgh, and he was terrific. I mean, he's a tough West Virginia kid. He got one of the games he got hurt. He got crawled off the field. The guy's so tough. Is there an interior player? I mean, you saw the Niners. They cannot run in the low red zone to save their life. Kyle Shanahan's calling pass plays on 2nd and goal from the 4, 3rd and goal from the 4. No confidence at all in their ability to blow anybody off the ball in the low red zone or in short yardage. Is there a Frazier-type monster either at guard or center in this draft? Somebody who's just got that toughness label or that, that brawler label that's maybe not an athlete, but just an old-fashioned, run road grader.
Yeah, I think go to Georgia and look at, they have 3 interior linemen in this draft. They all fit that mold. So Jared Wilson, the center, I think will probably be a second-round pick. So he would be in that range of like 43. He's not going to be there at 75. But they're guards. I love Dylan Frazier, who's the left guard. He's that scrappy, just technician. And then the right guard, Tate Rutledge, who was hurt a little bit this year. In week 3, he got hurt, but he fought his way back. They're both awesome players. They're both going to be at the Senior Bowl next week. And there's a shot you could get both those guys, one of those guys at pick 75. Like it's in the realm of possibility. So if you want that type of player, they're both there. Miles Frazier from LSU, another guard that would be in that range. A little bit bigger than San Francisco has traditionally gone at guard, but man, he would be fun in the run game for sure, and would definitely spice things up from where we saw this team. Like you said, you can't run the ball between the hashes. They're going to change that. And I've actually, I've done some mock draft exercises where I've had San Francisco take a tackle at 11 and a guard at 75 and a center with that comp pick at the end of round 3. It's like, you know what, let's just rebuild this offensive line in one mock draft because it is such a big need for them up front.
Yeah. No, Dom Pooney, by the way, was the 25th offensive lineman taken in the redraft. He probably would be one of the top 5 offensive linemen taken. 2 last ones before we let you go. The running backs and the tight ends are great, I think. I think it's a great year for both running backs and tight ends. I kind of like the Rutgers kid, Monangi. I don't know that I've ever seen a running back with that kind of contact balance. You can't knock him off his feet. I mean, that guy could get hit by a car and he'd keep running. And then I love this tight end draft. I mean, I know everybody loves Tyler Warren, and he's fantastic, but the Notre Dame tight end's got great hands. The Stanford tight end that transferred to Georgia, Urasek, I loved him at Stanford. The ASU kid, Conyers, who transferred to Texas Tech. It's everybody's transferring these days, but Conyers is a hell of a player. Is there a running back and a tight end that maybe aren't going up top that you really like outside of, let's say, Gianti and Warren?
Yeah, I love both position groups. You're right to highlight that. So, like, under the radar, DJ Giddens at Kansas State would be under the radar. He's great in the pass game, what he brings to the table. He's got really good short area quickness, agility. There's some contact balance there where he's going to bounce off guys. So if you made me pick like who's a day 3 running back, I would probably take DJ Giddens. Damian Martinez at Miami is also fantastic. I love him. Tight end class is super deep. Warren's going to go early. Colston Loveland probably goes first round. I like Mason Taylor at LSU. I like Elijah Arroyo from Miami. Gunnar Helm from Texas was probably the most improved tight end in the country this past year. And then Terrence Ferguson from Oregon is a sleeper to watch. And I know, like, Oregon and sleeper, you're like, how is that possible? But he's slipped under the radar this year, and he might rise up to that, second, third round level and become that, like Trey McBride kind of had that great process where you just, every time you watched him, it seemed like he was moving up boards. I wouldn't be surprised if that's Ferguson this year.
Hey, last one, man. We really appreciate your time, and you're awesome at doing this. We really appreciate you jumping on. The top of the draft. Let's talk about the top of the draft because the quarterbacks, Shedeur, some people like Shedeur. I saw Shedeur in the bowl game. I was very unimpressed. And I saw him early in the year, and I was more impressed in that game. But I really love Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's really special. Who do you like more between Sanders and Cam Ward? Who do you think ultimately goes 1? Do you think they'll both be successful in the NFL? Neither? One or the other? What do you think of those 2 guys?
I have question marks. I'll say that. And I've seen Shedeur play in person a couple times. I love his toughness. He's accurate. He's small. He's not super mobile. So it's like you worry about some of those things. There's a lot of, drift in the pocket, wait for somebody to sneak open, throw him the ball. He doesn't play on time a lot. He's not ripping through progressions. There's no boom, boom, boom. It's let me hang out back here. Somebody's going to come open. I'll throw him the ball. So does that translate to the next level? I don't think it does. So it becomes a question of, can he become a player that works through progressions and plays on time? That's going to be the biggest question for him. Cam Ward, I think the biggest question is, the Washington State tape was bad. And I know he had huge numbers, but the Washington State tape was not NFL tape. This past year was. So I think with him, what you get excited about is the progression from Incarnate Ward to Washington State to now. He's shown a ton of development. with these guys who've played a long time, same with Bo Nix and Michael Penix last year, you always wonder, are you playing this well because it finally clicked for you, or are you playing this well because you're now 24 playing against 19-year-olds? You know, that's a big development gap. And so I think with Cam Ward, like that's my big question. You know, I have him rated number 12 overall, number 12 player overall. That's a first rounder. That's a starter level grade. Like I said earlier, I would take all, those 4 guys from last year, I would take all of them over Cam Ward. But, man, if he gets in the right system where they can take advantage of that shortstop motion that he has, they take advantage of him being able to throw so well on the run, he dials up velocity really, really well. Like, the situation's going to matter a lot for both those guys. I wouldn't look at either of them and say, like last year with Caleb and Jaden, where you just draft them and they're almost scheme-proof. I think these guys are very going to be somewhat scheme-dependent.